We're going to go ahead and call our October 5th, 2020 regular town board meeting to order. For the invocation, I have asked Commissioner Larry Smith, and for the Pledge of Allegiance, I have asked our Mayor Pro Tem, Blake Massengale. All stand.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunity you've given us to be here tonight. Lord, I pray that you'll give us wisdom tonight as we have to ponder and look at the issues that face our town. Lord, I pray that our decisions will be pleasing in your sight. Father, I pray that you'll continue to be with our citizens all over Fuquay-Varina and all over our community, Lord, who are having hard times, maybe missing out on work or being sick from the pandemic that's gripped our community. Lord, we just pray for brighter days ahead. Lord, we do thank you for the way you blessed our community, the good things that are continuing to happen. Lord, we do pray that you'll be with those who are suffering this evening. Lord, be with our employees, our department heads, as they work hard each day to serve our citizens despite the pandemic. We're just so thankful for their dedication and their hard work. But Father, I pray you'll be with us in everything that's done and said here tonight. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Everybody join me and face the flag, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Virtual meeting protocol. At this time, I will ask our town manager to review the meeting protocol for public participation as it relates to this virtual meeting. Adam?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Board. All attendees that have joined the meeting tonight have joined muted. There is both a public comment period near the beginning of the meeting and a public hearing tonight. Therefore, there will be multiple times for the public to address the board. However, if the public does wish to address the board related to the public hearing item, they should wait for that portion of the meeting. If the public wishes to address the board, they will need to notify the town host that they wish to speak. For the public's benefit, if you are joining the meeting online and wish to speak, please press the raise hand button in the Zoom application. If you're joining the meeting via telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand. After you have raised your hand, you will enter into a queue. When the public comment period begins, Mayor Byrne will ask the town host to recognize you to speak by calling out your name or the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You will be unmuted at that time and allowed to address the board at that time. We ask you to begin your comments by stating your name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all that wish to speak can be heard in a timely manner. Once you have finished addressing the town board, you will be muted for the remainder of the meeting. And Mr. Mayor, this concludes the protocol for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Adam. We move right on to 3A, approval of the minutes from the September 22nd, 2020 regular scheduled town board meeting.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There are no presentations scheduled tonight. The public comment period. At this time, the IT Director, Scott, will call on individuals that have virtually raised their hand by way of the Zoom app or by telephone. Those wishing to address the town board will be unmuted one at a time, and as a reminder, public comment is for those wishing to speak on matters that are not subject to the public of a public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Scott, do we have anybody?
Yes, sir. We have one hand raised. Emily Holloway.
please unmute your mic and speak.
Emily,
Yes,
come right ahead.
yes, I'm here.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yes, my name is Emily Holloway. I live on Andrew Road, and my question is regarding the early voting beginning October 15th. I wondered and would like to know if the town and if the chief of police have put any protocol into place to monitor the election site over there at the middle school in case there's any disruptions, if they've got something in place to handle that for poll watchers.
I would say that we count on Wake County to notify us about that, but it is something that is on all of our minds, Emily. And we will do the very best job that we possibly can, with that. But I would say to you that we are prepared, would probably be the best way to describe it. But thank you for your
I know that there should be a judge there. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments.
I was just,
Okay, go ahead.
okay, you're welcome.
Go ahead if you need some more.
No, I know there's, no, I was just gonna say, I know there should be a judge present there, and if there are problems, that's who contacts, everybody, but I just wanted to know that the town's aware of all that. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And so is Wake County.
okay,
Okay, they're the
Yes,
ones
of
that
course.
monitor the elections, but we'll do a good job with it. And I appreciate your comment.
okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you. You're welcome, thank you.
Scott, did you have anybody else?
No more hands raised, Mayor.
Okay. We'll move on to, all right, it's 7A. Public hearings are a time for the petitioner to present his or her request and for the public to give input and voice their favor or opposition to the request. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand by way of the Zoom app or Zoom telephone so that you may be called on to address the town board. Once you're invited to address the town board, please begin by stating your name and address for the record. 7A, zoning map amendment and land use plan amendment. Carolina Land Group LLC, 1408, 1409, 1420, 1501, 1520, 1524, O&O Rogers Road, or 0 and 0, I reckon
That's right.
Rogers Road, REZ 2020-14, and you want to table this item.
This item is being requested by the petitioner to be tabled. Staff is supportive of that request. However, prior to the petitioner making that request, a public hearing was scheduled, Mayor. So for the procedural process, I should say, for this item, I should introduce this item to the board publicly, open the public hearing, give anybody from the public who thought the public hearing was going to be tonight
An
the
opportunity
to speak if they wish, and then the recommendation is for the town board to continue the
Continue
public
it
hearing
to
and
the next
table
meeting.
consideration to the October 20th board meeting.
And October 20th, you said,
Yes, sir.
next town board meeting, okay. All right, more information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Yes, sir.
Adam, so I'll just go ahead and, you're gonna present some
Yes,
more?
sir. I'm going to give you some information. this
Okay,
evening.
go ahead.
So the purpose of this agenda item is to open and continue the public hearing to the October 20th, 2020 Town Board meeting for a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 105.41 acres located at the addresses that the mayor introduced at the beginning of the agenda item, from the residential agricultural RA zoning district to the residential medium density conditional zoning district RMD CZD, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from small lot residential SLR, large lot residential LLR, and mixed density residential MDR to all small lot residential SLR and mixed density residential MDR. The subject properties are located in the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ. The properties are subject to annexation. An annexation petition is not being submitted at this time. These properties are currently a mix of uses, primarily farmland, forested, and a few single-family homes with their associated buildings. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the residential medium-density conditional zoning district, RMD-CZD. The petitioner has requested a number of conditions that be made applicable to the subject properties. First, vinyl siding would not be permitted. Vinyl windows, decorative elements, and trim are allowed. Second, relates to anti-monotony. No unit shall be constructed with an exterior elevation or color palette identical to the unit on either side or directly across the street. Third, relates to right-of-way visibility. Any side or rear facade visible from an existing public right-of-way shall have a covered or enclosed porch or decorative trim or shutters around all windows. The fourth condition pertains to facade treatment. A minimum of a 24-inch of masonry material at the base along the front facade and surrounding entryway shall be provided. The fifth relates to garage doors. Garage doors shall contain windows, decorative details, or carriage-style adornments. The sixth relates to glazing. Each unit shall have a front door with a minimum of 25% glazing, transom, or door side lights. And finally, duplexes are not permitted as a condition of this zoning map amendment. Surrounding properties are a mix of residential, agricultural, and forested properties. More specifically, future single-family residential structures will occupy the properties to the north as a part of the Geneva subdivision, which is currently under construction. Existing properties to the east are single-family residential and agricultural uses, and the west is vacant and forested lands. Properties to the south are located in Harnett County. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for small lot residential, large lot residential, and mixed density residential classifications. Although the requested zoning district is not consistent with one of the three land use plan classifications, the petitioner has included a land use plan amendment for this zoning map petition. Public utilities will be installed by the developer in conjunction with future development. The subject properties have access to Rogers Road. Rogers Road is classified by the 2035 Community Transportation Plan as a portion of the future Fuquay-Varina Parkway, and therefore is designated as a 150-foot right-of-way, and the future Fuquay-Varina Parkway is identified as a 4-lane median divided road with side paths, and Rogers Road is currently a 2-lane unimproved roadway. The CTP indicates that this portion of the future Fuquay-Varina Parkway crosses 4 of the subject properties and totals about 2,600 feet in length across the subject properties, and future development of the subject properties will require the dedication of the 150-foot right-of-way and construction of 2 lanes and a side path of this section of the parkway. Additionally, our community transportation plan shows a future collector street on the subject properties from Anderson Wood Drive to the future Fuquay-Varina Parkway. The petitioner did hold a neighborhood meeting on August 17th via the Zoom application, and that meeting report was provided in your agenda materials. The 2035 land use plan calls for large lot residential, small lot residential, and mixed density residential. The land use plan classifications for small lot residential and mixed density are compatible with the subject proposed zoning amendment, but the large lot residential is not, and therefore the petitioner has proposed a land use plan amendment from large lot residential to small lot residential. Management and staff are recommending further analysis of the proposed zoning map amendment with the corresponding land use plan amendment. While it is not inconsistent with the 2035 land use plan and is not unreasonable necessarily, following the planning board meeting, management and staff recognize that there appears to be an opportunity for further refinement of the petition to address concerns related to density and protections for surrounding properties. At the September 21st, 2020 regular meeting of the planning board voted 6-1 in favor to recommend approval, finding it reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by staff at that time. Planning board member Jim Chandler voted in opposition to the request. Since the planning board meeting, the petitioner has requested to table the zoning map amendment and land use plan amendments to the October 20th meeting in order to further evaluate matters related to future development of the property. And management and staff support this continuing of the public hearing and tabling of the consideration till that date. per the petitioner's request. So the action that's recommended tonight is to open a public hearing, followed by a motion to continue the public hearing and table consideration to the October 20th, 2020 meeting for zoning map amendment petition REZ 2020-14 and the associated land use plan amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. I'm happy to answer any questions you have either before or after, well, not after the public hearing, before the public hearing or after the continuance of the public hearing.
Jim Chandler, you spoke of Jim.
He was the planning board member that voted in opposition of recommending approval to the town board.
Okey doke. All right, I appreciate it, Adam. I think that's got us. We'll go ahead and the public hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment? Scott, do you have anybody?
I see no hands raised, Mayor.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this zoning map amendment?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Scott. The petitioner has requested that the public hearing be continued and the agenda item be tabled.
That's correct.
That's the correct wording for it. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
what I would be recommending. I would entertain that as a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to continue the public hearing and table consideration to October 20th meeting as recommended by staff.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move on to the consent agenda. What is the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda?
Mayor, make a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, and F. Second.
Got a motion and a second. A, B, C, D, E, and F. That's all of them.
All as recommended by staff, yes, sir.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We move to item 10A, preliminary subdivision plat, Roland's Grant sub PR 2020-03. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a preliminary subdivision plat submitted by the firm The Now Company called Roland's Grant Subdivision located at 5840 Hilltop Road. The submitted preliminary subdivision, Roland's Grant, is on 108.67 acres in the residential medium density conditional zoning district, RMD CZD, with a number of conditions that are applicable to the use of the subject property. Only single-family homes, detached homes are allowed. In addition, there are a number of conditions regarding the subject property's site-specific standards. First, the land shall be developed as an open space development in accordance with Part 9, Article F of the town's land development ordinance. At least 3 lot sizes shall be identified on the approved site plan. The minimum size shall be 5,200 square feet. Lots of at least 6,600 and 15,000 square feet shall also be provided. Third, larger lots, minimum of 15,000 square feet will be provided, or a minimum depth of 50 feet will be provided on open space located adjacent to properties having numerous Wake County property identifications numbers that are included in the agenda materials that will be provided for public record. No lot size shall comprise less than 10% of the total platted lot count. No one lot, shall contain more than 55% of the total platted lot count. The density of the development shall be limited to 2.5 dwelling units per gross acre. Connections to the adjacent subdivision via Ken Drive shall be barricaded 90 days after the pre-construction meeting date. The developer shall remove the barricades with the recordation of the final plat for the corresponding phase of development containing the 120th lot when the town ordinances require the second entrance. Vinyl siding is not permitted. However, vinyl windows, decorative elements, and trim are allowed. Garage doors shall have either windows, decorative details, or carriage-style adornments. To promote variety in home appearance, no home can be constructed with an exterior elevation or front facade or color palette identical to the house on either side or directly across the street from it. At the time that a connection is required to be made to the existing paved Ken Drive, the developer shall be required to ensure the entire existing paved section of Ken Drive south of Hollow View Court meets NCDOT construction standards and is in an acceptable state of maintenance for addition to the state system. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes 232 residential lots meeting the standards for open space subdivision developments. The minimum lot size permitted is 5,200 square feet. The minimum provided is 5,400 square feet with an average lot size of 7,982 square feet. Following the 25% open space dedication option, a minimum of 27.08 acres of overall open space with 5.42 acres of the common green area is required, and there are 55.4 acres of overall open space with 5.6 acres of common green area provided. The existing pond to the northwest portion of the property is shown to be removed. While the town has no jurisdiction over dam regulation, the pond's future is a private property issue. Town staff has been informed that the applicant has been in conversations since March of this year with 3 property owners adjacent to the pond to discuss the pond's future. Adjacent property owners have voiced opposition to the developer's intent to drain the pond, but is the town's understanding that those concerns have been addressed and the developer and the property owners have reached agreement on this matter. Vehicular access to the project area is provided via a connection to Hilltop Road as well as a continuation of the public street Ken Drive from the adjacent Woodsong subdivision to a stub adjacent to the Ransdell Charitable Lead Trust parcel as shown on the proposed preliminary subdivision plan. Collector streets indicated on the CTP are provided as designed in the proposed preliminary subdivision plan, and the 2035 Community Transportation Plan requires installing a side path along Hilltop Road, which is shown on the proposed preliminary subdivision plan as well. Off-site road improvements are planned, and the developer is working in conjunction with the developer of the neighboring Bexford subdivision to complete nearby roadway improvements along Hilltop Road to allow both developments to move forward and ensuring all off-site improvements are completed. The developer of Rollins Grant subdivision will be responsible for adding a right turn lane at the Hilltop Road and U.S. Highway 401 intersection with their first phase of development, while the Bexford subdivision developers are responsible for installing a left turn lane at the intersection of Hilltop Road and NC 42. In the event that the Bexford developers do not make the left turn lane improvements on Hilltop Road, let's assume that project for some reason weren't to move forward, the developer of Rollins Grant subdivision will make these off-site improvements before platting their second phase of development. Public water and sewer are available to serve the subject properties and will be installed by the developer. The proposed preliminary subdivision plat meets all town requirements, and as such, management and staff are recommending approval. At the September 21st, 2020 regular meeting of the Planning Board found the subdivision plat consistent with town requirements and voted unanimously to recommend approval to the town board. The recommendation to the town board this evening is by motion to approve the Rollins Grant preliminary subdivision plat SUB PR 2020-03 as presented and recommended. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the town board may have.
What action you want us to take?
Approve the Roland Grant's preliminary subdivision plat as presented and
I
recommended.
particularly really like it. I like the 25% open space. I think that is just a very nice opportunity for residents of the town for many years to come.
Manager, this is one of our first neighborhoods that really developer put in multiple different lot sizes. And as you mentioned earlier, has multiple, which gives a good variety. It's one I remember we spoke about also wanting a decent amount of open space between the lots and the existing residents, and developer did that, and developer offered many conditions. Developer also, if I remember correctly, as you just mentioned, voluntarily agreed to go fix another neighborhood's road problem, and did that. And what you're telling me also is where gentleman and lady that had phoned into our meetings the past few times and had issues with the pond, legal counsel from both sides have told you that's been resolved.
That has been, yes, sir.
And
That's
so
what we've been told.
This being the case, as developers met every guideline and resolved that issue when they did not even have to legally do anything with that necessarily, at least from our standpoint.
That's correct,
It being
from
a
our
private
standpoint.
civil matter. And I think this shows really a good job where developers worked hard to try to bring a project to the town. And
I would
I'll
agree.
make a motion to approve as recommended by staff.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just to say that I'm glad we gave them time and they took the time to work this out about the pond issue.
It's worked like it's supposed to.
Exactly.
And Adam, appreciate your help with it too.
Yes, sir.
And it went through the planning board just like it was supposed to.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna move on now to 11A, Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. There are a few items I would like to just update the town board on. First, you do have a project status report in your agenda materials. If you've had the opportunity to familiarize yourself with that and you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. If you need additional time to familiarize yourself with it, that is perfectly fine as well, and just let us know if you have any questions. Just a couple quick updates as it relates to public utilities. I did want to just draw the town board's attention that the first interbasin transfer public hearing meeting will be held at the Chatham County Agricultural Center at 6:30 p.m. on October 14th. And there is information, more specific information about this meeting provided on the town's website if anyone is interested in seeing what that information is. As you recall, we'll have a series of public hearings in different locations and different
Is it three of them or
areas.
five?
Three of them.
Three of them, yeah.
And we've got those scheduled and planned. As it relates to the planning department, the appeal for the U.S. Census completion date was granted by the courts, and therefore the census enumeration and reporting period will be permitted to continue through October 31st. There was concern about the date that had been previously set by the administration of September 30th not being long enough to fully capture the population count, and that additional time was felt like it needed to occur in order to allow that complete count to occur, and the courts did rule in that regard. And so October 31st will now be the completion date, and hopefully by then the numbers will be in fully for all areas across the country. I did just want to quickly update the town board, circling back to a project that we've spent quite a bit of time discussing in recent months. This is related to the Parks and Recreation Department. The James A. Campbell Park Restroom Mini Prototype Design is complete, and the project is now out for bid. We will have a pre-bid meeting on October 6th, and then we will have a bid opening that is scheduled for October 14th, keeping our fingers crossed that we will get good, plentiful, competitive bids that I can bring forward a recommendation to proceed forward with that project, and it makes sense for us to do that
Is this a
financially.
project that we're gonna be able to do at other parks too?
It is. We talked about this smaller prototype actually being a better fit in many of our parks. We didn't really have this prototype in our menu, and the board authorized the design of this prototype, and again now we're out for bid, and we hope that it will yield the results. I believe the architect estimated that, or the architect and structural engineer estimated that just simply by the reduction in materials there perhaps will be about a 30% cost savings compared to the other prototype that we were seeking bids on. And so hopefully that will get it down into a price range that is more favorable, that actually makes sense. Hopefully the unit prices make sense when we get those bids in, and it's something that this board can feel comfortable proceeding forward with, and that management can feel comfortable recommending. So that's the plan, but I know it's been a little bit since we last talked about that project, so I wanted to give the town board an update on that. We are also in the Parks and Rec Department discussing options for a modified winter sports menu of programming, if that exists. We're looking at that very closely to determine how we might be able to do some winter sports programming safely. If we can, we will announce that later this week or first of next week. If it doesn't look like we can, we'll announce that as well. I'll be keeping the town board informed. The Arts Center and the Downtown Development Department and the FVDA are all working collaboratively on planning for Christmas in Fuquay-Varina and how we're going to celebrate the Christmas season and do so in a safe way as well. And so as those plans continue to develop and come together, I'll be reporting to the board on those. But we're sort of getting into the short time frame now with the season approaching us in the next few months. And so we'll be making some announcements and some plans here very soon. And as it relates to the police department, I did want to just provide a few updates. First, Chief Fonstock is now a committee member for the North Carolina Criminal Justice Education and Training Standards Commission. This is a joint in-service training committee. This committee determines mandatory training for officers, deputies, and telecommunicators for the entire state of North Carolina. So having our chief involved in that, having input in that, will hopefully pay dividends in our community and make sure that police departments across the state are getting consistent and the correct type of training for officers to prepare them for whatever they may interact in, throughout their career path. The department has updated its recruitment brochure. We've added new information and photos on our website. We've shared job postings on social media, and we've sent our staff to various basic law enforcement training schools in North Carolina to recruit with a focus on hiring a diverse workforce. In the past year, we have hired individuals that speak Spanish, that are reflective of our entire community, have skills in sign language, have technology skills, have previous law enforcement experience, and some that are even veterans. We are working to continue to hire officers that are reflective of our community. We are currently developing an open house style recruitment event to invite serious candidates interested in becoming a Fuquay-Varina Police Department officer, with invitations being distributed to areas throughout our community to include churches, community groups, and other organizations in various neighborhoods. We will share more information on this event as we complete the planning process, but I did want to make the town board aware of that. Officers participated in a firearms reality-based situational awareness training, which is another effort in our ongoing training, above state mandated training to potentially reduce use of force incidents, identify training needs, develop officer skills, enhance officer decision-making, and save officer lives. And we are appreciative of Wake Tech offering this opportunity and a resource to us. In addition...
Adam?
Yes, sir?
Can you tell me the name of the last two officers that we...
Rama, and his last name escapes me at the moment. Give me one moment. I'm sure someone listening to this is going to send me a text.
The chief will be on there, and she'll know
with the names of the two officers. Yeah, let's see. Here it comes right now. Let's see. It is Rama Jones and Major Adams, the other officer as well, please. The other officer named Philip Wallinger, and he was a 4-year veteran with the North Carolina State University Police Department.
But the other fella, Jones, came from a police background, didn't he?
No, Rama Jones is straight out
That's
of
right.
BLET school. We recruited him as a part of the BLET program. That's
Yes.
right.
And he liked our program, and
That's exactly
I
right.
think
Matter of fact, Detective Hamilton, I spent quite a bit of time with him
that's right.
in the recruitment process and
Yeah.
recruited him to our
Particularly
department.
remember that. Thank you for sharing that with
Thank you, Major Adams. In addition to the information included in your agenda materials, there is also a report on the reconciliation. Annually, we do a reconciliation for the capacity of treatment in the Terrible Creek wastewater treatment plant. We did provide the town board the 2020 reconciliation for the plant. The reconciliation process identifies development completed and contributing sewage flow to the wastewater treatment plant, thus reducing the permitted paper flow to determine available treatment capacity for future development. Based on the 2020 reconciliation, the available treatment capacity to be allocated to new development is 1.127 million gallons per day. There's no action required by the town board. This is simply just an informational item to provide you an update on the reconciliation. And then finally, let me ask first, does the town board have any questions on the items that I've updated you on thus far?
I think we're good.
If not, then there's one other item just to update you on and have some quick conversation about. And I provided a paper, I emailed it to everyone, and then I also provided you a paper copy at your tables this evening. Every 2 years, the North Carolina League of Municipalities adopts an advocacy goals plan that identifies certain legislative goals that the membership of the league wishes, or that the membership wishes for league staff to advocate to the North Carolina General Assembly on their behalf. In preparation for the 2021-22 legislative biennium to start next spring, the North Carolina League Legislative Policy Committee and Board of Directors will be working to establish a concise list of goals for adoption into their plan. The League has asked its membership to submit legislative goals that the town of Fuquay-Varina would like to have considered as they work through the process of establishing their advocacy goals plan. And so I have provided a list of 10 legislative goals. Some of these are repetitive of goals that we submitted last year that were not taken up by the General Assembly in the last session. And one of the things that I would just caution the board on is there really wasn't much taken up in the short session of the General Assembly that was not COVID-19 related. And so a lot of the goals that were submitted on behalf of member cities and that the North Carolina League of Municipalities was prepared to advocate for just didn't come up in conversation, or either were introduced as bills but never made it anywhere because the focus just was on more pressing priorities at the time. So I provided a list of 10. I want to just go over these with town board members, answer any questions you have, and then provide a recommendation to you at the end. The first is seek legislation.
You're also asking for their guidance too.
We are.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they come up with something different, or if they
That's a part of the advocacy goals process. So what happens is all member cities submit their legislative priorities, and then the Legislative Policy Committee and eventually the full membership will have input into the compiled list of all of those priorities, and they will ultimately weed some out. And that's where the league and their expertise comes into play, and that's where they give feedback and input, is to say, yeah, this legislative policy might make sense for an individual community, but perhaps it's a local bill issue, not a statewide issue. Perhaps it doesn't belong on a statewide advocacy plan that the league would advocate for, and they would kind of give that guidance at that time. So the first is seek legislation that provides express statutory, and these are in no particular order, express statutory authority for municipalities to build broadband infrastructure and to partner with private internet service providers using long-term leases for fiber and or conduit assets. The current legislation is unclear and presents a barrier to investment in North Carolina by high-speed broadband providers. And additionally, COVID-19 has highlighted the digital divide that's present across North Carolina and the need for broadband access to provide educational equity and economic opportunity for all North Carolinians. And municipalities can be partners to accelerate investment and access to this infrastructure for citizens and businesses. And as it relates to Fuquay-Varina specifically, management and staff believe that if this legislative language was tightened up and more clear, it would provide the protections necessary for the municipalities to more freely invest in this type of infrastructure, and therefore get this type of infrastructure faster to the homes of its residents and businesses, et cetera. And so there was an attempt to move forward with this with the Fiber NC Act in the last legislative session. Again, unfortunately, it just did not go very far because other more pressing priorities took place. I anticipate, while this is a priority for us, it is a priority for many across the state of North Carolina, and it will appear on many municipalities' lists as they're being presented forward to the league. Second, seek legislation to preserve municipal authority to ensure safe and reliable transportation access to schools for vehicles and pedestrians without shifting the fiscal burden of school construction to municipalities. The ability to safely walk, drive, or ride to school is a basic expectation of all North Carolinians, and current legislation undermines the municipal authority to provide for safety and mobility. Municipalities statewide would benefit from eliminating the current unfunded mandate. If you'll remember, several years ago, the North Carolina legislature passed a bill that essentially said that schools were only responsible for the transportation and pedestrian infrastructure that really served their site. Any off-site improvements that might be required as a result of new school construction would either be borne by the NCDOT or by the municipality. And, I think you might see where that's going. The work just primarily will not get done if that's the case. And that's unfortunate because the community loses in that situation.
A good example of that could be the new high school out in the Willow Spring community, where they're not required to have the connectivity from the sidewalk standpoint. Mm-hmm. Am I saying that correctly?
That's right,
Adam. And that puts a real burden on what we're trying to do here in Fuquay-Varina, is really have the walkability where young people can access through different ways mobility to and from their schools.
That's right.
And I think this is a very important issue. Adam, I appreciate that.
Now, I will say, in some instances, the Wake County Public School System has made a decision to do more than what is necessarily required of them per statute, but that's not in every instance. And the door is certainly wide open for them to choose not to do so the way the legislation is currently written.
That's right.
Third, only support legislation providing additional post-employment benefits to public employees that includes a funding mechanism to fully support the cost and liability of the benefits, such as a special separation allowance programs to ensure that the liability of providing the benefit isn't solely borne by the last employer. Unfunded mandates, as I'm sure you would all agree, are problematic and hurt the fiscal strength of cities. The current structure of separation allowance lacks predictability, stability, consistency, and equity as it pertains to financial responsibility and financial statements. Over the last several years, there's been a push to add separation allowance benefits for other classification of employees other than law enforcement, firefighters, EMS providers, and it really only has the opportunity to snowball from there. There's a big debate, what constitutes safety-sensitive work and would qualify an employee for separation allowance benefits. Is it just fire and EMS or sanitation workers perhaps subject to this potential benefit? How about water and sewer workers that have to work in trenches and confined spaces? Where does it end? I'm not saying that the town of Fuquay-Varina should necessarily oppose added benefits for employees, but not at a cost to the last employer, an unfunded mandate. And so what I'm saying here is that the town of Fuquay-Varina only support legislation that also comes with a funding mechanism to fully support the cost and the liability of that added benefit. The fourth legislative recommendation is to seek legislation that provides a viable alternative method to provide cost of living adjustments for local government retirees. Currently, there is a method for providing cost of living adjustments in the teacher and state employees retirement system. A method does not exist to do the same in the local government retirement system. This has caused local government retiree benefits to lose its monetary value and not keep pace with the rising cost of goods and services. Remedying this problem will allow units of local government to be an attractive employment option in the marketplace and continue to recruit top talent. If you'll flip to the back side of your page, fifth, seek legislation that generates new transportation revenues that boosts funding to NCDOT or directly to municipalities. So facing financial concerns even prior to the global pandemic, the North Carolina Department of Transportation saw revenues decline even more significantly following the stay-at-home, stay-in-place mandates in the early part of 2020. For example, POW bill appropriations for fiscal year 2020-21 were reduced to just over $137 million. Most municipalities across the state just saw a flat allocation versus an increase that they have historically been receiving. Additionally, state maintenance assistant programs funding was eliminated by for the coming fiscal year. With with growing transportation needs statewide and especially in faster growing areas, there is a clear need for increasing resources versus decreasing resources. What this legislative goal is saying is we are wanting the North Carolina General Assembly to, through legislation, to better financially support the NCDOT or the municipalities if they wish to do a direct flow of funding so that transportation priorities can continue to advance and move forward. And so that we don't see the pushing back of projects that are in the state transportation improvement plan or in the state's long-term transportation plan where municipalities may be expecting them in a certain fiscal year, and now they're pushed back 5, 10, 15 years because of the DOT's funding woes. Previously, we have talked as a board about seeking local legislation for transportation impact fees. That is not what this is a recommendation for. This is basically saying we would like the North Carolina General Assembly to recognize, I'm sure they do, but to recognize that there is a funding problem with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Municipalities like Fuquay-Varina are suffering because our projects are being shifted back. Transportation is a top priority for our community. It has been for many years. And DOT fixing the funding problem through legislation, or not DOT, the General Assembly fixing the funding problem through legislation is something that we think needs to occur. That's what number 5 is saying. Number 6, seek and support legislation that funds law enforcement training. Issues in law enforcement highlighted by incidents in 2020 further underscore the need for enhanced and expanded training for law enforcement professionals so that they are able to better build trust and legitimacy in the community while serving the public in a professional and equitable manner. We've discussed this in quite a bit of detail and length over the last several months, and the General Assembly allocating funding towards this need is something that I think we ought to endorse, support, and certainly look for them to do in the next session. 7th, support legislation that protects law enforcement professionals. As an employer of law enforcement professionals, it is alarming that the Fraternal Order of Police have recently reported that 229 police officers in the United States have been shot in the line of duty as of September of this year. For this year, 35 of those law enforcement officers have died. 24 law enforcement officers have been ambushed, 7 of which were killed. Violence aimed at law enforcement officers should be cited as a separate and specific crime, and that's what this legislative priority is suggesting.
And Adam, I remember reading in another state where I think it's an A1 misdemeanor. In other state, it's been made a felony.
That's right.
If you assault an officer. So.
That's right. 8, support legislation that makes it illegal for units of local government or their insurance providers to pay a ransom to cyber criminals. As cybersecurity becomes more and more important, the rate of cyber criminal activity has become more prevalent in recent years, with many instances resulting in currency ransom being demanded in exchange for data to either be released back to the custodian and or not released publicly or to those that wish to do harm. Paying a ransom only encourages and strengthens a cyber criminal's will to continue pursuing data illegally. 9th, support legislation that recognizes certain technology purchases and specifications as not being public record. It is widely believed and in many instances has been proven that cyber criminals often troll information that would give insight into the systems and software that units of local government use to protect data and information that is safety sensitive. Labeling this information as not being a public record and protected under statute mitigates the risk exposure a unit of local government faces. And finally, 10, support legislation to revise the current methods of determining economic needs that are used by the state to allocate funds so that additional areas of the state in need may benefit from increased economic development, jobs, and see more entrepreneurial innovation. Tier 3 counties and fast-growing municipalities should not be disqualified because of geography and proximity to wealthier urban centers for receiving economic resources to assist with economic development objectives, as occurs more frequently under the existing method and formula. Bottom line is that just because we are geographically located to RTP, to the international airport, to the city of Raleigh, to some of the medical facilities, doesn't necessarily always equate that we are of the same economic status or stature of those areas that are immediately on those resources that I just mentioned. And so, however, because we are in a Tier 3 county, we oftentimes find ourselves not eligible or not competitive for economic development resources where some other municipalities and cities in the state of North Carolina would be. What this legislative priority and goal seeks to do is put us on a level playing field. And so these are the 10 that I, along with consultation from our staff, are recommending that the town board adopt and authorize me as your town manager to submit to the North Carolina League of Municipalities by October 15th for their consideration. Again, the legislative session does not begin until sometime in the spring. So just because we have a list of 10 today, and this might be the 10 that we submit to the league for their consideration, doesn't mean that we can't amend, remove, add to this list between now and, say, March, when the legislature is gearing up for their session. So we can revisit this, certainly talk about it during our town board strategic planning retreat, but we do have a deadline of October 15th to submit, if we wish to submit, some goals and priorities to the league for their consideration.
Didn't we, last time, 4 of them make it, or 5 of them? I can't remember.
We submitted 6 and 5 made the league's list.
But I would certainly recommend that we adopt this. I agree with all of them. I sure do.
This is very helpful to have this, because being a member of the board, we will gather all the comments from the various municipalities, and then at our meeting, our annual meeting, we will discuss this, and maybe, I know we will try to get some consensus on a majority of these goals. So it's good to have this kind of feedback.
Yes, sir.
Timely. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yes, appreciate it.
I'll entertain a motion.
What is the motion, Nita?
The motion would be to approve this list of legislative goals and priorities and authorize me as your town manager to submit them to the league by the October 15th deadline.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
So, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any questions from the board of me, this is all I have to report on in tonight's manager's report.
Okay, we got a short closed session.
We do, under the attorney-client privilege statute.
Okay. Okay, we'll move to our town board members' comments. Our Mayor Pro Tem, Massengill.
You know, often at our meeting, I like to talk about different staffs and different departments, and different ones of our, not just employees, but teammates that are here in the town of Fuquay-Varina. And we have 237, correct number of employees?
85.
85.
285. I'm
Yes,
way
sir.
off on that. 50 off on that. And you know, the organization here does a great job, and I continue to get emailed in compliments on our town staff here on what they do in their departments. And I mean, and we do get complaints, of course, from time to time, but people are less likely, I say often, to send in. Somebody's quick to complain, but not necessarily quick always to pay compliments. And so when I get compliments about staff, I know that that's not just one person that's doing good. I know that that's happened multiple times right there. And so I want to recognize that, the amount of hard work that has to be done. And then also right now, just simply with Corona that's going on right now out there, wearing face masks and trying to do jobs and then trying to service the public, but not knowing who you're talking to at the same time, and the dangers of the situations. And so point of what I'm trying to say is I appreciate what staff's doing, and I mean, it means a lot. And the positive comments that come in from the town for staff right here, I think is incredible right there. And I can't imagine any other municipality being able to compare for that. And so, and when I do business with other municipalities, they don't compare to what we have here. So keep up the good work, staff.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
I really didn't have anything to add, but after the Mayor Pro Tem made the comments he did, I just want to echo that. I try to catch our employees doing good things when I'm out and about. And just this past week, I was in my neighborhood, and the guys from the street department come in to pick up yard debris, and I had a chance. I was out, so I had a chance to stop and talk to them. Those guys were in just the best mood, act like they were enjoying themselves working, just helpful, friendly. And again, I just have to echo and say amen to what the Mayor Pro Tem has said. We got a great staff, and it's a pleasure to watch our staff work when you're out and about town. And I just give them a little shout out, because I just was impressed with their great attitudes while they were out there working hard. They were just grinning, talkative, and just in the best mood. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And the times when we do hear that positive feedback, we do hear very similar to what you've just mentioned, that the public works guys tend to display that level of satisfaction in their work and the way that they like to provide that customer service. So I'll make sure that resonates through my remarks to the staff.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harris.
You can follow that up with your Parks and Recreation, because I'm enjoying going out to Fleming Park.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is well used from 6:30 in the morning till late in the evening.
Yeah.
It's kept real well. So a compliment to the Parks and Recreation staff.
I'll let them know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Wunsch.
I would echo what's been said, and it's just in addition to the positive comments that we've all been getting, and they've been numerous, seeing how happy people are around town. I know just one example I would give is going out to the Hilltop Needmore Park and Preserve at night and walking and seeing people so happy and enjoying it, and the beautiful sunset and the just beautiful open space to walk around, and people really looked happy, and I like looking at the expressions on their faces and the families coming together, and I think that's what it's all about, and that's a reflection of a great job being done, you know, from management to staff, and I know in the 7 years I've been on the board, this is the fewest complaints I've seen in email. I mean, it's been just a lot of praise, and people are overall very, very happy, and that's a good feeling, and that's a reflection of what our board has shared tonight.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gardner?
I would like to echo the same sentiments and say that this past week I had a personal experience that I'd rather not have had. I had a little bump up at the intersection of Judd Parkway and East Broad, and the master officer Boyd, who came to my assistance, was very, very efficient and helpful and pleasant. My feelings were really hurt by what I did because it didn't mess anything else up very much but my car.
No.
But anyway, it was a very good experience, and I'm grateful that we have them, have the town, you know, the staff working all over town for everyone. It's really reassuring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. You know, I would probably echo those same comments. I think about our 185 employees, teammates, you know, and they do an outstanding job every day. And many of them, it's rain or shine. You know, it doesn't matter. We're getting ready to go into the bad season, the cold, rainy, damp season. And whether you're public works or a police officer or a fireman, you know, you're going to be out there in the nitty gritty and having to perform and smile and take care of all of our citizens. And I think that we have the great teammates to do that. And I really appreciate the comments, and Adam and I talk about them frequently. How fortunate that we are, and how important they are. They are the most important asset the town has. You hear me say that. It's not the buildings, it's the people. They get the job done for our citizenry, and I appreciate them very much. You know, just a few things to mention here. We had the Metro Mayor's meeting. Adam and I were on that. That was last Friday, I think.
right.
Or last Friday before last.
That's right.
You know, I spoke at the Piney Grove Baptist Church 200th celebration, anniversary celebration, which was really, really nice. I was kind of sandwiched in between two ministers in there, and I wasn't called. They called me one time, and Bill was there. They called me the Reverend Mayor.
What do they call you?
Mayor John.
Mayor John.
Yeah. But they just still call me just mayor, so which was good. But it was a great celebration. A lot of history in this area. You know, I told them that the Piney Grove Baptist Church was like the cathedral. In the Catholic Church, we call the oldest, the biggest church, the cathedrals of the diocese. And, you know, the Piney Grove Baptist Church was like the cathedral to me. It had been here the longest, and we were all very, very proud of it. We had some police officers swearing in. I was to speak to the Cub Scouts, but that was the night we had a terrible rainstorm come through, and that was canceled. And Centennial Authority meeting. Okay, upcoming events this week, we've got a Lincoln Heights Elementary videotaping with Susan tomorrow. Downtown nominating committee. And this is something Adam and I have kind of been working on and we may have mentioned it, a year. But this Blue Star program meeting is coming up, and it's kind of an exciting thing. It looks like we can figure out a way to pull this off. So
That's right. We've had good communication with NCDOT, and we're going to work with our local garden club to advance forward the designation of Highway 401 as a Blue Star Memorial Highway. So we're not across the finish line yet, but we've made some great progress here in the recent weeks.
and appreciate Tracy, another
Tracy
one of our
Stevenson has done a great job with
of
the
our
legwork
teammates
that.
that
He's been
has-
pulling the heavyweight there.
has helped us with this, but this is a big deal, I think, especially because of the military population we have here and retired community. But it's been one of my goals for the last, I don't know, probably we started talking about it after I went to Fayetteville one day, or to Fort Bragg
That's right.
one day, coming back from there. And then the Wake County Mayors Association, that's this coming month. I think it's going to be in Roseville, but we had a real nice group of them here last month, and it worked out extremely well. And I appreciated all that staff did that time as well. Okay,
Mayor, can I make one
Yes, sir,
comment I
please.
forgot to make real quick?
yes, sir.
I should have said it earlier, and I'll say it now. On Thursday, Scott goes over the hill, and Scott has a birthday and hits 40, and so Scott, happy birthday, early birthday, and thank you for all that you do. But Scott will join the 40th mark on Thursday, correct, Scott? Yes, sir. Happy birthday. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
I thought 40's over the hill. Is that not the number?
It's over the hill. That's right.
Not yet, but he's on
Got
the
a
way.
ways to go.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott won't never get over the hill. He's got a young mind, I can tell you that, boy.
That's right.
He's got a young mind.
Mayor Pro Tem needs to remember what they say about payback.
I'll be there. I hope to be there. I don't want to not be there.
You don't want to be under. You don't want to be under the hill, do you?
I'm going to entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Yes, sir. Pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11A3, attorney-client privilege.
Mayor, so moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.